This first song is the first song of the first album. It's called Blessed is the Black! This is Coven, and you're watching Slayed in Oregon. Yeah! Come on!
Thank you for taking the time to sit down with us, and it's great to see you guys back.
Thank you. It's good to be back, man.
Indeed. This is the first time you've actually been back to Portland in, what, over 20 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at least 20 years. We played at a club called the Starry Night. I don't know if you remember that one. If anyone remembers that, it was so long ago, you know.
Yeah, that's now the Roseland. So.
Oh, is it? Okay.
All right, so you guys recorded your debut album, Blessed is the Black, back in June to October of 1986. But it didn't actually get released until 1988. Was there a reason between, you know, the duration of recording and releasing? Or?
Well, basically, we recorded that album when we were all working at a pizza store, and as we would save up our money from tips, we would go in and record 3 more songs. So I don't know if we ever really had an idea of, you know, ever releasing it as an album. We got on a compilation through Everett Records, and then he offered to release the whole thing. So that's what happened. We ended up just recording it as a demo. They released it as an album.
That up was 1989, Death Walks Behind You. You know, and that was released, you know, kind of like at the time when, you know, the grunge was starting to pick up and get more, you know, mainstream notice, if you will. How did that affect you guys in any way?
Well, actually, '89. I think you're talking about Boneless Christian in '93. '89 was still pretty much thrash, and that was when we were signed to Enigma. Lyrics were toned down a bit on that.
Yeah, the lyrics were toned down, but you
still the record label's idea.
Yeah, definitely. They wouldn't even, you know, anywhere where the word "fuck" was, they put "fish." I mean, it was a joke. But
fishy,
yeah. I mean, they wouldn't. It was really kind of, you know, we were label mates with Poison. I mean, there weren't any other thrash bands on that label at the time.
I didn't know that.
So it's
yeah.
I want to hear you say, "Rock this church, do it!" 1, 2, 3. Rock this church! Every fucking time, don't fuck with me.
By '89, it had only been 5 or 6 years that bands were actually saying "fuck" on albums. You know, see AC/DC or Led Zeppelin in the '70s use those words on an album almost.
Like thrash and that really heavy style of music was so new at that time still that they were still like, what is this? How can we classify it? How can we control it?
The '80s was the first time you saw that in hip-hop music and thrash.
Yeah. Yeah, back then it was definitely, if you're trying to set up a tour yourself, it was a lot more difficult. You couldn't really have the communication. We would show up at venues and they would be closed down, you know?
Yeah.
So
you just had one person's word for it.
Well, they'd be, who are you?
It's so weird to think now, you know, with the internet and everything back then, it was just, it's just really hard to even remember, let alone if you didn't grow up in that time. No.
Yeah, it was definitely tougher to tour. You know, you'd miss a couple shows and then you're out of money for gas, you know?
Yeah.
So you're, you know, so we did a couple shows. We did have one show, we went out one time with the Mentors. Which
we
was
played
fun.
up in Canada a few times though, and that always went pretty well.
Yeah.
Shows in Canada don't count. You should tell some El Duce stories.
El Duce was a nice guy when he wasn't drunk.
No, when he was drunk.
Never.
Yeah, but he was drunk.
I thought you said when he couldn't get alcohol, he was a problem.
Yeah, that was.
Oh yeah, that was a problem too though.
Yeah, so it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That guy was a poet, though. Did you ever meet him?
Yeah, I met him on a couple of different occasions.
I mean, he would just stand outside the club and just be talking, reciting
Whoever
lyrics.
wanted to listen.
People would just crowd around him. I mean,
Yeah, he definitely had a way with
it's
words.
pretty amazing, yeah. I mean, you had to actually meet him, because, I mean, if you just saw him, you'd just think, he's some homeless dude, you know?
Even been a band for
he
several
wasn't-
years before that anyway.
It wasn't
They
even
got back
underground. It was
together
like
to
he was
make the album.
dead. He was like, don't talk about it, don't think about it.
That was when
Yeah.
my band moved here from Alaska and we couldn't get booked anywhere.
No.
We
There
would
was
play
like
Tuesday
thrash.
nights
What's
70
that?
miles from our house just to play. In
Yeah,
early
but we
90s.
had actually been broken up for some time before that. We had another band going, and Neil had another project going, so we actually had Jason Moody play drums on it. And we just, the original label that David Portnow, Everett, he offered us, he just gave me a call one day and said, hey, do you guys want to do another album? So we weren't really doing much. We threw, some songs together and recorded them is basically what happened. We weren't really even a band at that time. We
We had some songs that were written from before.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
threw
but I
it
mean-
together.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of how it was, though. We just said, not threw them together, but we wrote some songs.
Beautiful classics like Fucking a Nun and Satanic as Hell.
I mean, I was playing bass, Paul was playing guitar, and we had a guy playing drums. Jay sang a few songs, and then Paul sang some songs, and the original singer just wasn't really into it. And so that wasn't even really so much a Coven album. I don't look at it as, it came out.
Some fans really dig that album.
Yeah, it came out decent for how it ended up being put together, And we did play some shows just shortly after we released it, but we had a guy sitting in doing vocals, and Jamie came to one of those shows actually.
Yeah,
And wasn't impressed.
comical. Like when I first moved here.
How is the metal scene up there now? Is it still as close as when it was, or is it?
Well, we're all getting older, so we don't go out as much, which is
I don't know what
a
you mean
little
by
hard to head
close.
through,
I mean,
but-
there's a lot of bands because it's it's got some credibility now. I mean, there's thrash bands everywhere.
I think there's
metal-
Normal. It's not.
I think there's more of a metal scene in the south end than in the north end. These days.
Every
Yeah.
weekend you can see some metal playing. Like I said, when we first moved there in the early 90s, we were in a band called Skellum, and we had to play Tuesday nights at Jimmy Z's and really just scrap and scrounge for any shows. And then as the 90s went on, metal bands started playing the off-ramp on the weekends and things like that. And then in the 2000, when metal itself is huge, right? In 2010 and that era, it's selling tons of records. In 2010, Metallica and Slipknot had back-to-back #1 albums on Billboard. And
Ozfest came along.
Yeah, Ozfest is the biggest selling tour of all time, or the last 20 years, or something like that. So it's really big. But in Seattle, it's still dominated by a kind of a wimpier sound, you know.
Yeah.
But you can still catch a metal band on any night of the week.
Yeah, there are some good bands out there now that are in Seattle. I mean,
Sanctuary's back together.
Sanctuary's
They're
back
playing
together.
That 2 Tons of Fun metal show on the water.
Mace is back together again, too.
Mace, we just played with a band called Demon Dogs, and they're definitely old school style metal. Demon Dogs! And then, man, we played with
Bitter End did a one-off.
Yeah. I mean, we played with a band called Witch Haven out of Southern California. They're great.
Oh, yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah. Oh, they're incredible, yeah.
I know those guys watching the player.
But nothing's come out of the Seattle metal scene. Like, you know, Drowned Mary had a record deal, but it never really went too far. I heard them on Liquid Metal once or twice. Other than that, for any new bands, you know, since Himsa, and they broke up right after they kind of went big. You know, nobody's really busted out of the scene.
So, and you know, it's like, you know, given your albeit satirical, you know, outlook on a lot of things, especially Christianity. You know, I mean, you had like on Blessed in Black, you had you know, Iron Dick, which I thought was freaking hilarious. But you know, for the most part, it was all anti-Christianity. You know, how you know, who was primarily responsible for coming up with those lyrics, and you know, how did you know, what was influencing you other than?
We all hate church.
Yeah. It was us being forced to go to church when we were kids, and you know,
Getting dropped off at church when my parents went home to sleep.
The old guitar player Paul Hash, actually, probably he would be the one most responsible for all of the anti-Christian
A lot of hatred,
stuff.
I think.
I mean, we like anything that's, you know, sick and twisted. Not, you know, it's easy. You know, church is an easy target, obviously. You know, but I mean, we try to come up with other ideas like Iron Dick. You know, that type of song that's just kind of, you know, sick sense of humor.
We're like groaners. Oh.
Yeah,
If it's gonna make you feel a little sick in your stomach, that's what we're going for. Like, we have a brand new song called "Romancing the Insane." It's about our obsession with turning the mentally ill into sex objects.
Nice.
Their proper place in the world. Raising them to the status that they've always meant to be.
You guys fucking love thrash and we love you. Hey, don't panic. We got a few more songs, all right?
You know, keeping in lines with you know, the whole anti-Christian, you know, satirical, even always satirical, like I said. You know, like early '90s. I mean, I was growing up in England. I had, you know, closer access to it. You know, back in the day, like the Norwegian specifically, but the Scandinavian, you know, black metal
Feel
scene.
this one.
Yeah.
We have a Scandinavian in the band.
Indeed. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why we hired him.
You know, I think the biggest
Actually,
difference is
We
that
call it token, you know.
is that we're being sarcastic and having fun.
The token
podcast
Scandinavian, yeah.
And I think a lot of those bands are being very
We saw
serious.
Metalocalypse and we said we need a Scandinavian.
Obviously, that's what it is.
You know, you just reformed what earlier this year. You regrouped.
Yeah.
And you brought on board Underbishop, you know, longtime collaborator, and Jamie and Eric. You know, how do you guys all get to know each other? I mean,
We begged to be in the band, basically.
so Was there any pants involved in by any chance?
Some sexual gratification
Not yet.
still in store.
These guys, basically, these guys are prostitutes, and
talk
they
about
play
that.
in many different
It's
cover
gonna happen
bands.
quietly.
They play in tribute bands and cover bands, and that's how they met Eric.
Yeah.
Actually, I've known Dean and Neil for quite a while, and we played in other projects together. And then this whole thing actually came together from another dude, Franco, who I think he was kind of involved in this whole thing at the beginning.
Yes.
And that ended up not working out, but as a result, it sort of got the ball rolling, and then this whole thing came together, and the final piece of the puzzle was pretty much when Jamie came on board, because he came in already knowing the material and walked in and just nailed it. Like
That was really what happened. We actually didn't. I mean, we had tried to put something together, but we just couldn't find the right vocalist. We tried a couple of different vocalists that were really talented, but it just didn't work.
Different styles, or
Yeah, definitely different style.
Just even personality-wise, you gotta all vibe up.
Jamie basically showed up
I have a great
first
personality.
practice. We just ran through the set. First time through with him, he knew the material.
I was a big fan. In fact, you're talking about when Death Walks Behind You came out in '89. We were waiting. We would go to the record store like every day. I lived in Fairbanks, Alaska. We'd show up at Fred Meyer's and look all the time, waiting for this stupid album to come out. I was pretty stoked when we finally got it. I mean, we're talking. This is 13 years before I met. No, 23 years before I met you, dudes.
Yeah, 23.
God, that makes us sound old.
Yeah. yeah.
So yeah, Eric, you obviously same deal. You got in, courtesy of Frank, basically. Is that how
You could say that.
Well, in the beginning it was for a minute, and then it was.
Kind of took the scenic route.
Yeah, I took the scenic route. Is basically what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Eric and I were actually in a separate band, so I knew him from that, and previous to this whole thing coming together. And then and plus, Jamie and Eric have been, buddies since Alaska, so it just kind of came together through those avenues, through all three of those ways.
Exactly. So having, you guys having a fan of the band come in on board, take over vocals, the whole.
Oh, yeah.
You knowing these guys and working with them, pretty much all of you guys in some way, shape, or form working together. The chemistry was found. And,
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Pretty
once you
much,
hear,
yeah.
if you hear, tonight when you hear Jamie singing these songs. No, I mean, that's what made it work, because I know Jay had a pretty unique voice, and that's why it was always tough. We didn't even think about putting anything together because, his voice was different,
We'd have somebody come in and say, "Here, I'm going to improve this," and I'd be like, You better ask everybody at the show before you go and.
Yeah, our goal is to recreate that music. When you hear the songs, they're going to sound like they did on the album, and
that's the one thing, like I said, back in the day, going to the record fairs, finding you guys' cassette, on sale for like, I don't know, $2, $3 because it's a bootleg.
Oh, yeah.
what a bargain.
It was Jay's voice, the fact that he'd go from that the high end straight into that, traditional thrash.
It's a love it or hate it, like John Tardy or other singers like that.
Yeah, at the time, a lot of people would come up to us after we would play a show back, 87 or whatever, and they would say, "You need a new vocalist, man."
Or they would say,
or they would love
that
it.
one,
Yeah,
we had that one review. I remember we used to quote that said Jay Clark, quote, "the weak link of." We had a lot of terrible reviews back in the day.
Hey.
And now, when you read reviews online now, they all point to Jay's vocals as being, the standout part of it. And it's kind of like you get used to them, maybe,
can we expect to see, you know, some? Obviously, you said you got some new material stuff.
Oh yeah.
So we can maybe see a new album in the future.
We're hoping. We've had a few record labels that have showed interest in maybe putting something together, and we still have our original people that we worked with who might help us out. We got like 2 songs written now, and hopefully by next summer we'll have enough to go and record a full length. I think that's kind of.
As long as the world doesn't end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know where you'll be able to get it. Always on covenmetal.com though. Coven Metal.
They're definitely planning on re-releasing the other albums though too. So I mean that never got any distribution really, you know.
Well, like I said, that's what I was going to ask you because, like I said, I mean, you know, all your albums back in the days, that's how I got them was bootlegs and tape trading. And I was going to ask you, is any works to re-release them, maybe digitally remastered? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, actually, the original label, we're definitely going to release. We don't have
Blessed is the Black.
Yeah, Blessed is the Black. We have the rights. Well, that label has the rights to Boneless Christian, but we don't.
Death Walks Behind You might be a problem, but there is plans to re-release Blessed is the Black and to try to record a new album next year.
Have you guys had enough Coven yet, or what? All right, so we got one more song. It's the biggest and the best. It's what you've been waiting for. Fucking From the Dick and Beyond. I'll show you the meaning of